Hello, my name is Erin Landry Fowler, and I will be presenting on Alfred Eisenstadt's photograph, VJ Day. This is the photograph VJ Day by Alfred Eisenstaedt, which shows a jubilant American sailor clutching a white uniformed nurse in a backbending, passionate kiss as they're celebrating the victory over Japan in Times Square on August 14th, 1945. Originally published on the cover of the August 27th, 1945 issue of Life magazine, Alfred Eisenstaedt captured all of the emotion that Americans felt with the end of World War II. Time magazine called this photo one of the 10 greatest images in the history of photojournalism. The subject of this photograph is a uniformed sailor who is clutching a woman around her waist, dipping her over backwards in a passionate kiss. The setting is Times Square in Midtown Manhattan in New York City. The date is August 14th, 1945, and the photograph commemorates the celebration of the end of World War II. VJ Day, otherwise known as Victory over Japan Day, was the day that Japan surrendered to the United States, ending World War II. The surrender ended 6 years of hostilities and came several months after the surrender of Nazi Germany. This was the photographer Alfred Eisenstaedt, and Eisenstaedt was a German-American photographer and photojournalist. He was born in Germany and then later emigrated to the United States. He worked for Life magazine. In fact, he was one of the 4 original Life magazine photographers. And he was really known for his candid photographs of his subjects. He preferred shooting informal, unposed portraits. He favored human interest photos over more serious imagery. And he really pioneered the use of the Leica 35mm camera. So he used a small scale camera for most of his photojournalist work, which is really uncommon at a time where most photojournalists were using a large format 4x5 camera with a flash bulb, which was a lot heavier and more obtrusive. And Eisenstaedt credits the Leica to giving him really more of a casual feeling with his subjects. Eisenstaedt is quoted in saying, "It's more important to click with people than click with the shutter." And I think that follows his belief that he should have an interpersonal connection with his subjects. The examples below are some of his famous portraits of celebrities, Albert Einstein on the left and Marilyn Monroe on the right. These came a few years after VJ Day. So let's take a look at VJ Day and analyze the photograph. Line is prominent in this photograph. We see that there's a single centered vanishing point slightly above the shoulder of the sailor. If we follow the lines of the street and the lines on the buildings, they lead us to the center of interest, which is the kissing couple. Also prominent in this photograph is the contrast between the values. We have the stark white nurse's uniform against the dark black sailor suit. The majority of the composition is gray, other than a few areas of bright white and dark black. The emphasis in this photograph is on the figures in the center. They are featured prominently. They are the largest figures in the photograph. And most of the people in the background are also looking at the couple in the middle. If we follow the gaze of the onlookers, who are bystanders of sorts, we are also drawn back to the center, back to the action of the kiss. So Eisenstadt's intent with this photograph was really to capture the spirit of the occasion. VJ Day in Times Square was a huge celebration. Couples were embracing and kissing, people were drinking and partying, and there was this spirit of jubilation that he was trying to get in his photograph. The kiss, as one witness said, had become a sort of national currency for Victory that day, and the issue of Life magazine that featured Eisenstadt's photograph on the cover also had images from other photographers who were catching couples kissing in celebration of VJ Day in other cities across the United States. Eisenstadt decided to take this photo when he saw the sailor reaching out to embrace the nurse, and he said that it was the white uniform of the nurse that really caught his attention, and he was really focused on trying to catch that light on dark contrast. He thought that if the woman had been wearing darker clothing, that the photograph never would have worked the same way. So the emotional response that was originally evoked from this photograph was one of celebration, of joy and relief. Without knowing the couple, we are assuming that they're reuniting after years away from each other. We see this image of passion, and you feel this joy at the sight of seeing this couple together. This is where the interpretation of VJ Day gets kind of tricky. In 1945, this was seen as a very romantic image and one of celebration and joy. But to look at it with contemporary eyes, you can also interpret it as an image of sexual assault. The couple in the photograph were not a couple at all. The sailor was a man by the name of George Mendonza, and Eisenstadt had actually seen him moments before weaving in and out of the crowd, grabbing women left and right, kissing whoever he could find in celebration. Later, Mendonza was interviewed and saying, "We were all drinking and raising hell. I see the nurse. I had had a few drinks, and it was just plain instinct, I guess. I just grabbed her." The nurse, as it turns out, was actually a dental hygienist by the name of Greta Friedman. And Friedman verified that she did not give consent for the kiss, that she was grabbed. But later she had said that she felt that he grabbed somebody dressed as a nurse out of gratitude for all the nurses who cared for the wounded. If we re-examine the photograph with the knowledge that this is not a couple, it starts to change the meaning of what we're looking at. If we look more closely, we can clearly see that the sailor is clutching the woman tightly. His hand at her waist is almost digging into her, while his other arm is pressed tightly up against her face as he's kissing her. She, meanwhile, is only just responding to this unexpected kiss, and her left arm is loose at her side, while her right arm, which is clutching a handkerchief, is sort of pinned between them. These are a couple of other examples that Eisenstadt had taken that same day. And in these images, it's a little less romantic. It's a little bit more forced. I think we can tell by the contortion of the woman's body, and in the left photograph we have her arm curled up and then her fingers curled inward into a fist. On the right photograph she's sort of pushing back. They're very different photographs than that one that made the cover of Life magazine. It's interesting to see too that in every example of these photographs, the people are watching with an almost bemused humor. They're laughing or watching this spectacle that's happening, and unfortunately the woman becomes sort of the butt of the joke. So when we start looking at the legacy of the photograph VJ Day, it's interesting to see how our culture has sometimes embraced this image and more recently sort of reacted against it. The image of the sailor and the nurse has been reproduced over and over again in household decor, Valentine's merchandise, and also Halloween costumes, as the image on the right shows. And it's also been used to inspire other artwork. So here on the left, we have some graffiti in Glasgow. You can see that this particular artist put a little bit of a twist on the couple. And in the image on the right, this is a larger than life sculpture of the sailor and the nurse that is in Sarasota, Florida. And in 2019, this sculpture was vandalized with the hashtag #MeToo. So what makes the photograph VJ Day such a powerful image? When this photograph was originally published on the cover of Life magazine in 1945, it completely captured the spirit of what the American people were feeling at the end of World War II. This photograph stood the test of time because it symbolized victory, celebration, passion, and relief over a years-long struggle full of sacrifice. Decades later, people still connected with the image that they saw as being one of a passionate embrace between two lovers. It was seen to be a romantic image. Years later, knowing that these are not a couple, we have a different interpretation, and now this image has come to symbolize issues of consent and the Me Too movement. The reason that Alfred Eisenstadt's photograph has continued to spark conversation and raise questions and be a part of our cultural conversation is because it is such a powerful photograph. Thank you.